when we begin, we'll have everybody push to talk or mute, pretty please, and how I'd like you to begin describing things is, or describing yourself rather, is your living self, and this will be in the year 300.
Where to begin? My name is Ophio. I am Commander General in the Elven Army. I'm part of a unique unit. I manage the border of life and death, and I'm able to play with it freely. My expertise has won me a lot of favors, and it has won me a lot of enemies as well. But war is a weary business, and I haven't rested in quite some time. I'm an elf of noble descent, one of the second generation, or so we are called. I stand at a regal 6'6", with a stern expression, and other than that, I can't remember. Not entirely, anyway.
Perhaps you will in time. Where we find this elf is at her funeral. She is living, and she kneels willingly on a dais. Behind her, her lieutenants, Yale and Oriston, kneel as well. She has been shrouded in a funerary mask made of alabaster, the tone of which is just ever so slightly off of skin tone. It's a bit uncanny valley. And across her shoulders has been draped a golden threaded cloak, and it enshrouds everything else of her form. The guards outside and the Elven King, with a sad look on his face, stand at attention as the strongest of the warriors outside rolls a stone over the front of your tomb, and the three of you slip into your final trance. You're 6 years old. You're currently standing very still for a painting. Your parents have commissioned an artist to do a family portrait of the three of you. You're content to stand still. It's beautiful in the autumn here, up on the cliffs high above the sea in the elven city of Larasindal, the capital. It's small at this point. After all, the year is only 79. 79 mere years after the world was developed, or the world was created, and history developed. But it's still a regal setting. Fine stonework. And the crimson and orange leaves float slowly down from the limbs above you. And you watch as a tiny pixie dances across the tip of the now bare limb and flits off into the sky, leaving behind a trail of frost. You're 12 years old. King Saren is teaching you, among a small class, perhaps 15 or 20 individuals, the lesson of the story, rather, of the creation of this world. He's been rambling for some time now, and he mentioned three beings called the Creators that supposedly, floating through time and space, found the outer elemental planes and brought them together. Ian, so help me God,
Wasn't gonna say anything.
Did you remove everybody's controls?
No, but I wasn't gonna say anything.
Uh-huh. So Ian
I
wants...
wasn't gonna do it, I swear. I swear.
It's already there.
Yes, it's
I
too late
mean,
now, friend.
it's looping. It's looping on the current track.
And when it's done, we kill you.
That'll be interesting. Well, I'm glad I noticed it now so I can pause before we switch tracks.
Imagine if you would hit enter on that next.
So anywho,
I'm so sorry.
it's okay. The creators found the outer planes and brought them together. And when they did, they found that it created a material world at their center, where at their nexus, where all of them intersected. And they also found that without actively holding them there, they could not keep this world in existence. And to keep this world in existence was important to populate it. They still needed to do that. So they came up with a solution. The first beings they would create would not be original creations at all. In fact, they would be beings chosen from these found elemental planes. 12 of them, to be exact. And they've been dubbed by the people of this world the Weavers, because of what they do. The creators imbued them with the ability to hold the planes together, so long as, for eternity, their existence, they would walk the planes, shifting at least once a day from one plane to another, the material included. And so, the Weavers walk, which has become known as a bit of a colloquialism in this world, similar to our "what will be, will be." Then, the creators poured all that was left of them, every last bit, into creating life. The first humans, the first elves, the first orcs and dwarves, and giants, and on and on and on, until nothing was left of them but a lump of stone. And then life began for our planet. He's rambling on, continues to tell you about what's known about prehistory, what he experienced during prehistory on his small corner of the world, but he reminds all of the students to remember that it is a singular experience for him, and that though he is old and wise and has been around for 65 years more than the rest of you, for some. I'm a bard, I'm not good at math. He insists that your world is large, and he's only left this continent a handful of times in his lifetime. And there is much of the world he hasn't seen. Ophio, the boy next to you, while King Saren is teaching, kind of nudges you with his elbow. He's at the desk across the way.
I look at him in my periphery.
He's looking back at you in his periphery, and he's got, tucked under his forearm, he's got a folded note. And as you are looking, without turning your head, you can see that on the other side of him, sharing his table, is his desk mate, an elf girl, who's like leaning forward, being far too obvious, and she's just got a shit-eating grin on her face. And then she leans back.
I ignore both of them.
King Saren walks by and snatches the note out of the boy's hand. He apparently saw it. So he unfolds it, pausing in his diatribe, and breathes in as if to read it, as you've seen him do a few times before with people passing notes. People making fun of the length of his fingers or how weirdly he doesn't blink. But this time he folds it, places the note on your desk, and continues walking and teaching, as if nothing happened.
I'm going to listen and ignore the note for now.
Eventually, he dismisses you from class.
I take the note, and I'm going to linger a little bit, and then I'll read it after everybody has been dismissed, unless it looks like my dear companions want to stick around.
They didn't. They filed out. The girl deskmate pretty much bolted for the door when everyone was dismissed. And when you unfold the note, it's simply, I love you, Ophio. You're 22 years old. You've been training for this for a long time, but this is your first real sword fight. This is a person of your kind. An elf. Who has decided to give up their noble bearing and their noble lifestyle to steal and plunder. They've become a highwayman. And now you've got him cornered. Roll initiative, please.
Sure. Natural 20.
I
natural
love
20
it.
plus 4, so 24.
Way to start the night. Okay. So you have a 24. He does not. He will be going second.
I have a sword.
You do. You have a longsword. And at current, I suppose you would be... You'd be level 1 as a fighter, so we'll say your proficiency and your current strength modifier. Your actual strength modifier.
Okay. Sure.
You have cornered him essentially in a... there's no other way to put it. It's a root cellar. He was hiding behind a farmstead. He was... The people who live in the farm didn't even know he was there, so when you came knocking on the door, just doesn't... They had no idea, so you're... So
I got the
Yale
jump
and
on it.
Oriston stayed there, and yeah, you got to jump on him and trapped him down in there. So you've got him pinned up against the wall, pretty much.
Okay. Is this rogue cloaked?
Yes, he's cloaked and has a half mask over his face. You can only see his eyes, which are brown.
Okay. Alright, I'm going to... I'm in striking distance, correct?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so I really cornered him in a root cellar. I want to make a perception check around me to see if he really is the only person in the room.
Okay. Roll
and
perception. And yeah, you're an elf, so you'll have dark vision.
yes, I do.
Yeah.
17.
You appear to be alone. You don't hear anything else as you stand there basically holding him at bay. You don't hear anything else. You don't see anybody else. There's not really anything to hide behind. There's one set of shelves and there's a barrel.
Okay. I'm gonna hold my sword at arm's length. I'm ready to duel if need be, but if you have any self-respect, you will turn yourself in for your crimes.
I'm making way more money doing this than I ever did as a stupid librarian.
I did not ask.
I've done far too much to go to prison for this. It's not about self-respect.
Then what is it about? Is it really just about the money?
Oh,
Since you
for
seem
me.
so keen.
For me, it's about self-respect. For you, it's not. For you, it's about respect of everyone else.
You presume too much.
Okay, soldier.
I ask you to turn yourself in for your crimes.
Not
If you
gonna
do
happen.
not, I will kill you.
You can try.
I'm gonna wait for him to make the first move.
He tries to dive around you, so you get an attack of opportunity.
Is he like a natural 20?
Oh, fuck. You connect.
Okay. Let me
Roll
get a longsword,
damage,
because I don't fucking have a longsword.
Yeah, 2d8 plus your strength mod.
Thanks.
No problem. Unless you're wielding it two-handed. That's up to you.
She doesn't
Which
have a
case?
shield, so it would be 2d10.
Be 2d10 then.
Okay. 9 plus strength, so 12 damage.
Yeah, you do a quick side and back step, and they pretty much run up the blade of your sword on accident. Because they juked really hard to the right and tried to run past you, and you set your sword and just barely moved forward. Just the slightest twist of your hips, and plant the hilt of your sword all the way up to the bottom of their rib cage, and they just come to a stop.
I flick the sword.
Body rolls off of it. Mask hat comes off. That was the boy that passed the note. You're 75. A wizard named Atticus the Ashen has attacked an elf settlement on the edge of the wood, a month's hard ride on Direwolf from Larasindal. Reports say he razed the hamlet to the ground with 30 or more clattering skeletons, and then animated the skeletons from the 20 or more victims before marching south across the plains again.
Okay. And I, from my perspective, this is instigating.
Your perspective is you've received this news from a courier, and you are in Larasindal now, and you've currently achieved the rank of captain. You've risen very quickly.
All right, we're going to have to take care of this attack, I suppose. Okay. Who's around me? Who can I order, and where can I order them?
Immediately you have, as always, Lieutenant Yale and Lieutenant Oriston. They are, while not friends, sturdy compatriots and 100% reliable. They have both signed your new contingent of special services, and they are the first to do so.
Okay. Can you describe to me again what is coming? One more time.
It's actually not what's coming. I'll grab my world map for the video's sake, but Larasindal is far to the northwest on the cliffs, high up on the cliffs on the actual border of the continent. Okay. And separating you from this settlement is a forest the size of Texas. And apparently this necromancer rode in, destroyed it, took the skeletons from the victims, and rode back out again to the southeast.
Okay. So am I to understand that my unit is giving chase?
The order comes to you to decide at this point, Captain.
And I'm gonna look at Ornstein.
Oriston. Mm-hmm.
Oriston, yeah.
Sorry, I'll share those in chat real fast. Apologize. General. Actually, let's put that in in-game notes because that's important.
Okay. Orston,
Yes.
what is the status of their Sindel?
Their Sindel is safe and secure, as always, my captain.
Are we certain?
Positive. If you wish us to make another round with the Rangers, though they just did so last week, we can make another sweep.
No, send a courier. Inform them of what's happened. I need you here to give chase.
Done. Oriston turns, leaves the room, stops, looks at the courier, and says, "You, what company are you from?" Exchange a few words, and then Oriston leaves.
Yale,
Ma'am?
we shall meet Orston. But we're the ones who are going to make the sweep.
Ma'am? Are you sure?
I'm certain.
Understood. I'll prepare to leave then, shall I?
Yes.
And Yale will turn and go and get their stuff. You are left alone with a very tired-looking courier who bows and says, "If you'll excuse me, my lady, I need rest."
But we have no other couriers.
We do. I recommended Oriston to the same company that I came from. There should be at least 3 others available to run now.
I'm going to wave him off, take your leave, and then I'm going to go to a second courier and give him the same notice.
Okay. And he will follow suit.
What is around me at this moment?
At the moment, you are in your office. That's where you received the news.
Okay. And where can I find...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You go. Describe.
I was going to say, it's basically, like most other things, simple and clean stone construction, but not without elegance. Small curves to lines. I'm bad at describing architecture. Tall towers, but sprinkled in amongst these snow-capped trees, you almost wouldn't see them. These are, you know, of course, you have anything from normal-sized pines all the way up to redwood-sized conifers that just massive grow out of the ground. Or, of course, they grow out of the ground. Oh, I'm tired. I purposefully didn't have coffee so I could go to sleep tonight later. But yes, that tower hundreds and hundreds of feet. And the elf towers are kind of just within them. And you are, as captain, I would assume that you would not have the top of a tower, but
Unlikely.
pretty close.
Okay.
Because there's 4 or 5 towers in total, and then there are... The majority of people prefer living in buildings in the trees that are either carved into the trunks or that sort of thing.
Okay. I'm going to send the last courier to my superior's office with the same message that I sent the other 2.
Okay.
And then I am going to go find my specialty units.
Okay. You're able to round up all 12 of them, not counting Oriston, who is the only missing one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as all of you move to set out the time shifts for you again. The year is 268. War has reached its peak and will stay there for over 3 decades. Tens of thousands have died. For note, you remember learning in the lesson that the creators made roughly 20,000 of every race. Of course, it's been 268 years since then. Humans and elves and orcs especially all propagate and such fairly quickly. Still, the death toll has been near catastrophic. For this point, you've lived your life fully as an elf warrior in the service of the forest citadel Laris Sindal, and you've risen to the rank now of Commander General. It's the year 300 now, and you're directing a force of living and undead elves that meet in the northwestern plains at the front of battle between elves, humans, dwarves, ore giants, and orcs. It's been a heated 40 years of war by now, and it's come to a head here, at what promises to be an all-out melee between what's left of the races. All forces, should they collide here and now by your estimations, will decimate each other. There will be no winner. Just more death. You are tired. Lieutenant Yale stands speechless beside you. A mummy now. Oris Dawn, under a heavy black cloak, who for the last 50 years has required blood to stay alive, stands at your right. And a cadre of other undead stand behind you, about 50 yards away from the rest of the elven forces. But nevertheless, the king ignores this divide when he rides back and forth observing his troops. Passes in front of yours, and you just the same. And when his eyes meet yours, you can feel the weight of war heavily weighing on this unaging, noble king before you. And you feel something different. A pull from an entity you'd only really heard of and not done much study into, but you can feel the world itself weeping. Nature itself is weeping. They are tired too. The soil can only handle so much blood. And something unusual happens. Something you did not expect to ever see of the tall, proud Elf King. Perhaps he too felt the cry of the world beneath him. Perhaps he's also tired. But his body belies no weakness to anyone else, no hesitation. And his steed lurches forward without a word from the front line, and with a raised hand he summons a brilliant, high-flying, white pennant on a staff. And he rides alone to the center of no man's land, and he waits. While silence ripples over the battlefield from all other sides, the still living elves around you are murmuring their confusion. The first other to move is the king from the human lines. His high wizard crosses his arms, and by his body language seems displeased with this change. The king from the human side too summons a white pennant and rides out to meet King Saren. Next, the dwarf general, and finally Mountless, the orc admiral. The ore giant and their people simply watched. Hours passed. Raised voices at first, especially from the dwarf and the orc. But eventually it became clear that the other armies were making camp, right here at the front lines. takes until sunrise the next morning. But peace is finally reached. Right, now after a significant pregnant pause there, Cass, if you'd be so kind as to clear the queue.
Uh-huh.
Everybody get ready for SpongeBob.
There you go.
Thank you. And let's see here. I need to actually look at my song list. From here, unless there was anything you wanted to discuss with Oriston, seeing as Yale doesn't speak anymore.
Well, yeah, actually, I did want to.
Sure.
I'm tired, Orston.
Understandable, my lady. I am not.
Would
But I can understand.
that were the case for myself? If I could join you, I would.
No, my lady. Time for rest has finally come. 3 centuries of this. He shakes his head. He looks up, because with the sun having set, or no, I suppose, where do you picture this? That's what's more important, not where I picture this conversation. Where do you picture it?
Probably sometime where the armistice is being discussed.
Okay. Well, he'll pull back his hood, his face gaunt, and his eyes bloodshot. It's been a good few weeks since he's fed. Because that was the last time your contingency saw an actual fight with the living.
Since the rules are slightly flexible at this point in time, and because there is no contingency for this situation, I'm going to kind of remove one of my bracers and slit my wrist with a dagger and then offer it to him.
He obeys and feeds from you with only a split-second hesitation. There's a flicker of "are you sure" in his eyes, but before he can even begin to pose the question, he can't resist. And so he'll drink for a moment. You'll take significant amounts of damage, but it's probably only about a quarter of your hit points at this point. And he stops and thanks you through blooded lips and kind of just stands there and catches his breath. The sensation of being fed on is familiar from the few attacks that you've weathered before and from the handful of times that you've done this for your troops that needed it. That slightly euphoric but painful, and also like you're falling asleep, all mixed into one. And then it's gone just as fast when he lets go.
I take one of my sashes, and I'm gonna tie it around, and then put the bracer back on.
Yaris reaches over silently. I said that wrong, didn't I? Not Yaris. Yale. Yale reaches over silently and just, without even turning their head and looking at you, just places a hand on your shoulder, and all you can hear is the shuffling of bandages. But there's a glow that emanates from their hand and passes into you, and the wound on your wrist closes, and most of the hit points recover.
We are a unit. This is kind of how we have functioned for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Well-oiled, strange machine.
I'm going to cross my arms and just stand until whatever is going on is done.
As dawn comes, Oriston turns their back to the rising sun and raises the hood of their cloak. And all of the commanders leave the center of no man's land and come back to their respective armies. And slowly but surely, you watch as others begin to pack up. And Saren, the last to return to his front line, leading his horse rather than riding it, comes up to you and says, "You will not take a single more step in the act of war. I bid you please sit and let me guide you home." Yale and Oriston both salute.
I look at both of them. And then I will salute as well.
The ride home is quiet, but it's essentially that all of the forces realized if we do this, we're dooming all of ourselves forever. And we can't risk that just because now we want to fight over territory. And there's some rumblings. I mean, it's to be expected. You know, you've put so much time and effort into this. And of course, figuring out borders and everything like that is going to have to be determined in the future. But for the most part, everybody seemed, at least among the leaders, pleased with the agreement they'd reached. The humans would take most of the cornucopia plains and the northeastern part of this continent along the south end of the Great Mountain Range, big mountain range up there, which I don't have a name for yet. I apologize. And near their largest city, which is carved into the side of that mountain range, called Terran. The elves will keep Larasindal and the Great Woods, which will now be known as Saren's Wood. And most notably, you remember a project to build a great catacomb at the site of the armistice, where all races would be interred together. Something about that sounds nice to you.
And I will follow up on that. I trust Saren with my life, but I don't trust him to lead me home. I trust my lieutenants more. So
the
I'll take
whole
Orc.
army packs up to go home. And your lieutenants do not leave your side, Saren or not, that's for sure.
I
He
trust
just
my
wants-
lieutenants.
Fair enough. He'll still walk with you. Behind you, even.
Oriston and Yale. I'm going to take them to this catacombs. I make good on my promises.
And then again, you find yourself kneeling. Oriston and Yale with you. I hope this was clear, they're being interred with you.
If that was their choice, I'm not going to argue.
You know Yale agreed. given what Oriston said, you're not sure. So if there's something you'd like to say to Oriston before the funeral, I suppose, commences, we can have a memory there.
Sure.
Okay. You're all standing there, kind of in a side chamber, being dressed up. It's a dressing room for all sakes and purposes, and this is very similar. You're familiar with seeing this for any elf that's ready to pass on. Is they go into a trance and they pass away in that manner. And so your people constructed pretty small catacombs that were just dark, quiet, peaceful places, the same stonework, for this to happen. And the king asks you, so this will determine where this little chamber setting is, which you would prefer. Would you prefer to inter yourself with Saren's Fallen at the Great Burial Mound, or would you prefer to be interred here at the city of Larsindal?
I think I would prefer to be buried with Saren's Fallen.
He says, then you will have a place of honor like so many others, but also a place of honor like so few others. There's no happiness or joy at all when he speaks to you one-on-one. There's no pomp and circumstance. It's not that he dislikes you, he's just like you, tired, done with war, and hating that these honorifics have to be made. But he is pleased to at least give you an end that you desire. And Oriston, in this chamber, you're 10 floors down. You know from what you've heard about construction that there are 13. And it took you about 5 years to get all of your affairs in order and prepare for this. 5 years is nothing. 5 years of peace and of dusting off an estate you barely got to spend time in, and nothing compared to 40 plus years of war. And Oriston is looking at Yale's reflection in the mirror and his lack thereof.
Oriston,
Yes, my lady.
tell me truly, what is it that you desire? Is it this?
Selfish, wicked things, my lady.
Speak clearly.
I'm not done ripping out throats. At least I thought I wasn't.
Faced with your own mortality now, immortal?
I don't think we even know what happens to vampires, as we've called them, when they rot, dry out, don't feed. I don't know if I'll be able to stay in trance until my death. I've decided I'd like to, but I don't.
What would you like, my friend?
To rest. If I can't.
How deeply do you wish to rest?
Like you're about to. I don't think I can. but I'm gonna try. It's true. None of you know what happens to a vampiric elf when they try and trance themselves beyond.
If you do wake up, just remember that I'm here. I will be watching you.
I'll continue to try and make you proud. And he nods and blinks a few times and puts his funerary mask on. Yale puts a wrapped hand on both of your shoulders. Stares at you with their funerary mask, which you've become so accustomed to looking at.
I'll hug him.
He hugs you back.
Until forever, then.
Mutual
I'm going
nod.
And after that, I'm going to put my own mask on.
And then you are led to kneeling. You feel this series of images and memories flash through you. And as you come again back to the end of the circle and you kneel, something's different about the ground. It's softer beneath you, slightly tilted. The funerary mask slips off your face, and your eyes open. The room you were interred in seems either gone or utterly transformed. And you are kneeling where you knelt before, but on a tilted dais of stone. You feel with your hands before your dark vision fully recovers, and you feel a root of some ancient tree has shifted this thing.
I immediately am going to look for Forrest, Dawn, and Yale.
As your hands come up from your lap and your head turns, you feel resistance at first. Some crowding, pressing in around you, but soft. Smells. Man, that's familiar. And as your dark vision finally comes to, you are sitting in what appears to be just a giant nest made of these huge shelves of fungus. You can't discern the color yet without light, but you get the feeling it must be vibrant because the shades of gray are very stark and contrasting. And you see two daises behind you and the stone door, all of it covered in thick layers of this fungus. The two stone daises, however, one, the skeletonized and empty bandages of Lieutenant Yale slump in a comfortable, almost fetal position now in the fungus. And where Oriston knelt is a pile of dust and a strange hollow around that dust where the fungus doesn't quite touch, but it definitely shrouds over it. You had to eventually get up and move the few feet to find that.
And I definitely do. I'm going to head over to the dais and kind of like pick up the bandages.
Okay.
Look at them and take some of them and then do the same to the dust, very confused.
Okay. You realize your body feels different. This cloak that was on you is clinging to you now. It's not just draped. And you realize you can feel through it. You pick up the bandages, and there's remnants of the spell inscriptions that made Yale into a mummy in the first place. And you know that at least with Yale, this has happened once before. You've done mummification for others, and when they were done, when they retired, or were able to, they've simply passed on like any other elf would. So this at least was comforting to know, but Oriston, there doesn't seem to be anything left, except for the dust. You do find a few of the non-magical, symbols. Sorry, kicked my desk. Symbols that are included in the wrappings. And then, yeah, you're able to collect as much dust as you want, really.
I'm going to collect some of that and then just take a look at what has happened to me. Probably haven't spoken a word yet. Kind of afraid to.
I hate to... I would just be like, I describe you, but I want you to do that, because you know better than any of us.
Sure. I think my name is still Ophio. My skin is dried and cracked, and from where the seams once were, there is growing some kind of vibrant fungal, almost infection, and it spread over my entire body while I was interred. My cloak has become part of me, melted into my back. Is that it? And I'm just gonna like wave my arm, and it extends with my arm. And then I feel like the crown of my skull, and there's this burst of fungus that has split the seams of my skull and is just dripping down the back of my neck. I can't tell what shape this is. I can't tell what has happened here. Have I become part of this place? What happened? What happened to my friends? And
Is that in thought or out loud? Just out of curiosity.
That last part's probably out loud.
Okay. You hear from the dais that you had been kneeling in your own giant fungal nest that's bigger than your lieutenant's, either of them. You hear it shuffling behind you. Movement, and similar to this crest of stuff that is coming out of your head, just much, much bigger. It is soft and pliable, and it bends back out of the way, and what can only be described as a 4-foot tall Asian grandmother wearing a giant shiitake mushroom, comes walking out of the wall for all intents and purposes.
I do not move. I am frozen. This is a dream.
No, dearie. I'm sorry to say that it's not.
What? What has happened? Where are my lieutenants? What has happened?
Well, I've just been given a crash course on who you are as well, so bear with me. Why don't you sit down first, though? Here, and she just kind of, it looks like a nervous clap at first, and then it ends in a clap, clap, and this little toadstool, that is indeed a stool, sprouts up behind you. It even has 3 stalks sprouting up beneath it, and a very, very flat cap.
I will sit out of shock.
And she comes over to you and looks you up and down, pinches your nose, turns your head side to side, and
no more ears.
say, ah.
Huh?
You still have teeth, yeah?
Ugh.
And she's, yep, still have teeth. Still look in good shape, too. Oh. And she just kind of, squints her eyes. She's got these just giant glasses, huge Coke bottle bottom glasses, not the, Coke bottle, huge glasses. And she toddles over to where Yale had lain. Ooh, mummified this one, did you? And oh dear. She kind of picks up some of the dust and feels it with her fingertips and thumb. I've only ever seen that when a vampire's been staked.
Staked?
She looks and she goes, yes, but then I've never known of a vampire to sleep itself to death. Plus, no stake. And she points, and in the dark, though there's no color, you can see the interior wax seal that Yale had placed before kneeling again on their pedestal is still intact.
I'm too confused to get up from my toadstool. I fold my hands and try to process everything, but my brain is now full of fungus.
She comes back over to you and summons a stool for herself and sits down. And between the two of you, she summons a bonfire. Just a little one. But with magic. And then, some of the fungus that was just growing across the stonework and in the now exposed earth from roots pushing through is just all that's burning. It doesn't seem to spread, which is good. And then she takes off her hat, and from within it pulls a cauldron that should not have fit in that hat. Okay, I forgive you. Who did that one? I wasn't even looking.
Me.
Well done. I forgive you. And she sits down and says, unfortunately, that's probably copyright protected, and this is going to be published on YouTube, so we can't use it without permission. But nice touch and good point. Yeah. So let's see. I don't really have much nice music from Midnight Syndicate, I won't lie. because I will have to mute this.
Oh, but this
I
is
can't edit it.
perfect.
It is. It's really nice. I really like it. Shit. Is this done by somebody really famous, or can I email them and ask now? Because I kind of want to keep it. No, I don't know. I'll have to use a different one, unfortunately. That's why I... Oh, it's Spirited Away. Of course I can't. Yeah, of course I can't use this. I am sorry. But yeah, nice touch. And while we are thinking about it, yeah, that's another thing is I did music on the fly, so I did not grab that ahead of time, and for that I apologize. Vampire.
I'm very sorry.
No, you're okay. You're all right.
No, honestly, that was perfect.
It was a nice touch, and it reminded me like, hey, we're out of creepy time now. Can we have something nice? And we'll go with, it's nicer than Catacombs was. Copy link. I shall send to Cass.
I'll put it.
And we're
Your
nearing the end of our
descriptions.
session too. So.
You can describe. I will do the thing.
Ah, yes. So she pulls out a cauldron that should not have fit in that hat. She sets it on top of the bonfire and then pulls out a couple of apparently edible mushrooms and begins to cut them up into the cauldron as well. She summons water from her sleeve, pours it in, and begins to bubble, and a stew begins cooking up. She says, "Don't worry, this isn't cannibalism, my dear," and hands you a little cup full of this mushroom stew after a few moments. She just lets you sit in quiet. And the first thing that she explains to you is, you have been sleeping now for about 1,000 years. You're
I
supposed
drop
to...
it.
It hits the ground and rolls away. There's still more in the pot. She says, "That's fine. There's more. We can."
1,000 years?
Yes.
I haven't passed on. I was meant to.
It appears not.
Why?
Because nature says you can't yet. And she looks at you with the smile, the soft, gentle smile she's been wearing this whole time goes away. And she looks at you with some measure of sadness now. It told you, or it said to tell you, war is coming. Again. Death is coming again. But not like you knew it. Worse somehow.
And my price paid in blood is worth another war. More of this. Why? Why was I not allowed to sleep? My lieutenants are gone. What use would I be in a war 1,000 years away from everything that I've known?
Because you understand undeath better than most people. And any living ones that nature itself can reach out to. And they need your help. This is more than borders, my dear.
I'm going to just kind of like lean forward and think on that a second.
She'll pick up the cup from the ground and dust it off, fill it back up, and set it next to you, right side up, but not force it into your hands. But she will say, You're going to need to eat. You, unfortunately, don't have much time to linger here, my dear. Make a perception check for me, please.
Sure. Perception is +5. Let me take a picture of this.
Is that another fucking natural 20
Yes.
cast? God damn it!
I swear to God,
I believe
I'm
you.
using a balanced dice, and it's. I promise you, I'm not joking. Is that the third one I've rolled tonight?
I think so, yeah. I
It's
don't
either
think we
the
have a
third or
stat keeper.
second.
Shit, we don't have a
That's
stat
okay.
keeper
I
like we do
mean-
in our other game.
Yeah, well, Ross is good, so there you go. Here, next to the appropriately colored cup.
Since you
That
are
says
good enough to
dead
share it,
tired.
I will view it and I will include it as well. I'll save it to
So
desktop.
my cup. I would like you to know that cup says "dead tired."
Oh, that's too good.
Mhm.
No, not the Bremen solo session. This goes in Ophio solo session. Okay.
25.
Oh, you hear it. You hear someone whistling. And it's coming from definitely somewhere outside in the catacombs.
Do I know anything of this?
Your mind races back to the layout. The tactician in you, unable to be quenched even after 1,000 years of the sleep of death. And you remember that along this floor, there is the spiral staircase back up and back down. There are 8 other interred on this level with you. And it's basically a circular... no, not 8 other. 8 other families. So there's lots of other tombs in here. I would say probably 20 other rooms. You would know the numbers because tactically minded. So probably 20 other rooms just like yours along this circular level.
Okay. I'm going to sip what I've been given because I'm not a fool.
It's warm and rich and makes you realize you are alive. More than the musty air in this tomb can do for you.
I'm going to tie the mummy bandages as I sit there between my fingers,
Okay,
like I'm raring for a fight.
gotcha.
And then I'm going to take the vampire dust and I'm going to rub it on my palms.
You unmistakably hear the sound of a door 4, maybe 5 spaces away being rolled away. And then quiet again. And then after just a few seconds, you hear something similar to this. And then again, louder this time.
I'm going to quietly whisper to my companion, "What makes this noise?"
The reason that you must follow me as soon as you're done eating, my dear.
I'm through. Let's go.
All right, then. She stands up, and as you do, the toadstools disappear. And she picks up the cauldron, and her fingers slip, and it drops with a clatter.
I'm gonna catch it.
Make a
Try
reflex
catching.
save. Yeah, make a reflex saving throw.
Okay. Dex saving.
Sorry, yes. 3.5, edging into my
Alright,
brain again.
14 plus 4, 18.
Oh, yeah, more than enough. You catch it, and an inch from the floor, right before it hit the stone dais you had been kneeling on.
I was ready.
And she grabs your wrist and runs straight at what should be, by all accounts, a solid wall that leads to nothing but about a quarter mile of dirt before it would get the outside of the hill. And you collide with this wall of fungus, and it's like running into a giant mushroom. There's no other way to describe it. You just kind of thump into it, disappear into its foamy flesh, and you come out to a overcast sky in what is clearly Larasindal, the edge of Larasindal. Though the sky is overcast, your eyes hurt. Because you come out of the side of a tree that is just laden with moss and lichen and huge shelves of mushrooms coming off of the side of it. And you and the woman burst out of it, and the door that never was is still not there. And you're standing on the outskirts of what is clearly an extremely developed Larasindal. You don't see, as you peer toward the city, you see more spires than you do trees, to the point that it almost turns your stomach, and you cannot see where the spires stop. It's so big you can't see the coastline.
I'm just kind of speechless and staring.
She says, well,
What has
welcome
happened
home.
to Larasindal? What is this?
1,000 years of growth and peace. She squeezes your hand gently and then lets go. She says, you should know that your sacrifices were not entirely in vain. Like I said, this is not about borders, my dear. And she summons the toadstools, the campfire, and sets down the cauldron again, or sets down a kettle this time. And pulls out a box that's about as big as my dice tray here, but a little bit thicker, and divided into a grid that has all sorts of loose leaf tea. And she lets you sniff them and take your time perusing them as she explains to you that, no, it has been pure peace for 1,000 years. All of the peoples involved in the bloody war kept their agreements by some stroke of miracles or something. This woman looks much older than you were when you knelt, but she explains to you that by the strict math, she is far, far younger than you. And younger than you were when you knelt, as a matter of fact. Something in later generations of elves, you note, must have changed how aging affects their bodies. And she explains that the races didn't stay separate. Through peace eventually bloomed love and so many other great things. The advancement of magic and the stagnation of warfare has been the highlight of the last 1,000 years. The treaties has held. Nobody's felt any reason to breach it. The only major problems are problems that any world would have that's at peace, as outlaws, brigands, and the occasional people who use their magic for their own good and unfortunately, at the expense of others. And she admits to you that while you were in immediate danger a few moments ago, she can't tell you where the fight is right now. All she knows is that nature told you to head to Saren's Gate.
Then I
That-
must.
Hang on. Did you play another copyrighted song? I will
No, I
punch
didn't. I didn't.
I like how you did no copyright.
you. Hey, if you know what, I'll take it. That's fine. That'll work. So she says that nature told you to go to Saren's Gate.
Does Saren yet live?
He does.
Then
He
I
is
shall
still
go
king.
see him. Perhaps he will have answers.
Perhaps.
And if not answers, then... well... I don't know what good an old, moldy general is to the king anymore in a time of peace. But my king is my king.
I understand. And I hope that you will soon understand. I hope that you won't be upset when he explains, as I'm sure he will, that he did not bring you back. And that he doesn't know who did. But I can tell you who did. And when you're done, when you're ready, nature brought you back and wants you at Saren's Gate. Until then, I have my own grove to attend to, so I must leave you. But if you need me, just... She pulls what can only be described as a tiny little jingle bell, barely bigger than a pea, on the end of a blood red ribbon out of her pocket. Just ring the bell. I'll hear what you have to say.
I'll take the bell. Thank you. I won't forget your kindness.
And I won't forget all that I've read that you did for us, General. And she bows to you very deeply. As she does, the mushroom hat obscures where she is, and then as the hat comes back up, she's gone, and the hat vanishes as it spins in the air before you. And that is where your story will stop for tonight.
Woo!
As I assume you begin walking toward Lair Sindel.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now...
Quite a sight.
Yes, spires of white stone, which you knew were being carved out of the cliffs along the north side of that continent. If you would be so kind as to play Crypt of the Forsaken from that album.
Sure.
And we'll give you your meanwhile.
Meanwhile,
The stone of your tomb rolls open. And in front of roughly... how many could fit on this level? I don't know. 300 skeletons, zombies, various forms of undead. Stands a figure with legs that bend backwards, a tail that thrashes back and forth to find this empty tomb, and yellow eyes with black, 8-pointed star-shaped pupils. No irises. His pupils constrict and rove about this room. He stomps in, wings flexing on his back as he purses his lips, and again, and he looks down at the skeleton of Yale and just curls his index finger. And Yale stands up out of the fetal position, jerking slowly. And Carpedagia, the incubus, leans close and says, "Good morning, Lieutenant. Take that shit off of you." And he starts pulling the rags off. Oris Dawn. Can't believe you pulled it off. Oh well. Come, Yale. Join the rest. We'll find Ophio later. And that's where we'll stop for tonight.
Cool.
Woo!
So I roll real well.
Yeah, you do. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's what's up.
3 natural 20s in one night. Jesus H.
Mhm.
Christ.
Or 2, I wasn't counting.
I'm pretty sure it was 3, because there was the very first roll of the night. And I was like, well, there's an omen.
That was a perception check. And then I killed the dude, and then I listened real hard.
Yep.
I only
there
get
is.
natural
There's a
20s
3.
when I'm really paying attention.
All right.